Welcome to the Cigar Rebel community, where indulgence meets authenticity. This is more than a podcast. It's a gathering place for those who savor life's luxuries with unapologetic passion. Here we celebrate the fine art of living through rich flavors, bold spirits, exquisite cigars, and unforgettable experiences.
Welcome, Cigar Rebels, to the podcast. I'm Mel.
And I'm Kevin, and we're coming to you live tonight from Stories, Cigars, and Lounge with an episode, Cigars 101.
Yes, so we will be doing cutting and lighting.
Yep. And so, sorry, I took off. I thought you were going to talk about if they were where they are at.
I know.
So, strong start tonight.
Yeah.
So I'll throw back to you.
Yep. So whether you are lighting up on your back porch, sitting on your favorite lounge, driving home from work, or just sneaking away for a little peace and quiet, or if you are watching the USA versus Belgium game, we are glad that you guys are here.
Absolutely. And so, as we said, we're coming to you live tonight. We're super excited with another Cigar 101 episode. As Mel said, tonight we're talking about what every cigar smoker does, but not every cigar smoker does well.
Yes, and that is going to be cutting and lighting.
And so the two things that happen before you really ever begin your cigar, before the cigar ever begins to perform, and also the two things that can ruin a perfectly good cigar before you ever get to the first draw.
Yes, so that is 100% the truth. A great cigar can really survive a lot. A bad cut and light, and maybe if you rushed it, that can be a really rough start.
Yeah, and it's like buying a prime ribeye from a local butcher, taking it home, trimming it up, getting it seasoned, throwing it in the microwave, just heating it up.
That I can't even think about that. That just
it hurts a little, right?
That doesn't sit well with me.
It shouldn't sit well with you.
Yeah, I don't even cook the steaks. You always do.
But that's what a bad cut and light is like.
Yes. So tonight we are going to slow down and talk through the right way to cut, light, touch up, and also relight a cigar. We're also going to dive into a little bit about the cigar anatomy, different cutters, different lighters, common mistakes, how to fix common problems when your cigar starts misbehaving.
And Rebels, this episode is not about cigar snobbery. It's not about making new cigar smokers feel bad.
Right. This is going to be all about confidence, because if you know how to cut and light your cigar correctly, everything is going to get better. The draw is going to be better, the burn, the flavor, the experience, everything.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, your blood pressure goes up a little bit when you purchase an $18 cigar and it begins to canoe a few minutes in, or it begins to tunnel or unravel.
Yes, that is 100% true. That is always so devastating. So go ahead, Rebels, cut light and settle in for tonight.
So, Mel, before we get too deep into the episode, what are we smoking tonight?
Yes, so tonight we are smoking the Paladin Connecticut by Hoot & Young. This has an Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper and the Nicaraguan binders and fillers.
Yeah. So what do you think about the cold draw so far?
So for me, the cold draw, it's very clean. Has a little bit of resistance there, just a little bit, not being lit.
It's got a great draw. It's got the right amount of resistance. It's not too flowy, but you got to actually take a little pull on the draw, which is perfect.
It's a little bit sweet, has some woody hints in there.
Yeah, there's definitely this mild hay with a little bit of creaminess, I think.
Yep.
And so again, not to get too detailed, but I really feel like it's got this really great natural flavor to it.
Yep.
And so,
all right, let's go ahead and cut our cigar today.
And our lighting, so we've already cut it. We're going to go ahead and light it today.
Yeah.
We're going to light our cigar tonight. It's brought to you by the Elevated Humidor.
Some moments deserve more than just passing by. They deserve to be celebrated. That's the philosophy behind the Elevated Humidor. Born from a passion for hand-rolled premium cigars, TEH blends world-class tobaccos from the Dominican Republic and Nicaragua into cigars crafted with tradition, precision, and purpose. Whether you're marking a milestone, closing a deal, or simply taking a well-earned pause, the Elevated Humidor turns a simple moment into a lasting memory. With 4 distinct collections crafted to satisfy every palate, there's truly something for everyone. Explore the smooth refinement of the Velvet Collection, the elevated sophistication of the Elegant Collection, the timeless character of the Core Collection, or the flavor experience of our Infused Collection. Visit your preferred tobacconist and ask for the Elevated Humidor by name. If you don't find us on the shelf, our premium collections are available online through our trusted retail partner, Two Guys Cigars, bringing exceptional craftsmanship and unforgettable experiences directly to your door. The Elevated Humidor. Celebrate life the elevated way.
As always, thank you to our sponsors. Now that we've got this lit, why don't you start us off tonight?
Yeah, so this cigar, just from the first couple of draws, Mel, is extremely smooth and buttery. Yep. That creamy hay definitely transitions over to a little bit more of that buttery, savory kind of creaminess, like a higher end butter. What's that Irish butter?
Starts with a K, Kerrygold.
Yeah, so just that kind of creamy savoriness, which is great. There's a little bit of toasted almond there, and on the finish, there's just kind of a rich cedar that I'm picking up.
Yeah.
That woodiness that you mentioned earlier, I think, in the cold draw. So that's been great. Just a couple of notes. Hey, Richard, good to see you on tonight. He had asked if we had heard of oak and iron cigars. I have heard of them. I have not smoked one. Would be definitely open to that and learning. I always love learning about new cigar companies. Getting back to the topic, Mel, when you're teaching cutting and lighting, you really want a cigar that gives you honest feedback. It's a cigar that's not too dry, not too wet, that doesn't plug, that's really not underfilled or poorly constructed. And then the cutting and lighting, it won't really solve everything if you have those issues.
Right.
However, it is impactful.
100%. So this is going to be one of those episodes where the process is really the point. So it's going to be why cutting and lighting matters. And so we're going to start with the big idea. And, that's that cutting and lighting are not just cigar chores that you have to do. They really are part of the smoking experience.
And it sounds oversimplified, but it really does matter. A lot of people treat cutting and lighting like they're simply obstacles to getting the cigar lit. Like, let me hurry up and get this thing smoking.
Right. And that's really where that problem starts. It can, the cut really controls the airflow of the cigar, and the light really starts that combustion. So these two things, they influence the entire cigar.
Yeah, if the cut's bad, the draw is going to be bad. If the light is bad, the burn can be bad. And if both are bad, you're going to spend the next hour blaming the cigar, the humidity, the lounge, the brand, the roller, that friend that did you wrong in fourth grade that you still haven't gotten over.
Yes. And really, it could be that you chopped off half of the cap and you touched one side of the foot like you were welding.
Yeah, and we've all seen it. And if we're honest, we've all done it.
We have. I mean, here is the first takeaway tonight is that you don't have to be fancy, but you do have to be intentional.
And that's the line right there, Mel. That's right. The takeaway tonight.
Yes. A clean cut, a patient toast, a really even light, that is going to set the perfect foundation for your cigar.
Yeah, and that foundation lets the cigar do what it was blended to do.
Right.
Burn well.
Mm-hmm. And before we start and dive into cutters, we need to spend just a couple minutes on the cigar anatomy. So, and that's really because if we don't understand what the parts of the cigar are, it is really easy to cut the wrong part. And I think if you're a new cigar smoker, that is the question that I get the most often is which is the side that you cut?
Yeah, we were in a cigar lounge the other day, and there was a female smoking her first cigar, which was awesome. And the first thing she said is, okay, which side do I cut? And she put the foot, which is the side you light, into the cutter. And, it's like, okay, if you don't cut the cap that's closed, you're not going to get very far, right? But I think she thought you lit that side and cut the other. She'd never done it. Yep. And the person with her patiently walked her through it, which was great. Yep. Definitely one of those fun things to help somebody grow, right?
Yes.
It's easy to cut the wrong side.
Right. 100%.
It's one of those things that new cigar smokers hear and immediately think, wait, there are parts to a cigar.
Yes. Yes. So a premium cigar is going to have several important parts. It's going to have the head, the cap, it's going to have the shoulder, the body, or some people call it the barrel. It's going to have the foot, the wrapper, the binder, and the filler.
Yeah, and let's start at the end that people cut, Mel.
Yes.
Let's start there.
That's a great place to start because, like you said, you have seen people ask the question. I have seen both men and women, but a particular story is one time a gentleman came, he wanted a cigar. I offered to cut and light it for him. He assured me he knew what he was doing, and he cut the cap after I told him that was the spot that you cut, and then he lit the cap and tried to smoke the foot. And I was like, so we ended up just giving him a whole new cigar, but he was adamant he knew how to do it. I wasn't going to step in more than I had to, but then it was just completely a fiasco after that. But the head is the closed end of the cigar.
So for those of you guys watching live or on the replay on YouTube or Facebook, you can see this is the head, the rounded part with the cap.
Yes.
Just to give a little bit of example.
Yes. And we say that because 99% of cigars are going to have an open foot.
Right.
But there is that small percent that will have a closed foot.
Yep. And the head is the side that goes into your mouth when you're smoking it.
Yes.
And what's the cap, Mel?
So the cap is that small piece of tobacco that is placed over the head, and that's really to finish the cigar, and it holds the wrapper in place while you're smoking it. And that is along with the shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cap matters, right? Because when you look at a cigar, that cap, as Mel said, is holding the entire cigar together.
Yes, the cap is very important, and the goal of cutting it is not to remove the entire cap. The goal of cutting is to really open the cigar while leaving enough of that cap to hold the wrapper together.
Yeah. And so one of the things I want to show you in this cigar is if you're ever unsure of which side is the head, because some cigars are rolled in a way that can be difficult, is look at the band. Hold the cigar where you can read the band, and then the head of the cigar is above that.
Yes.
So like in this cigar here, you can read the cigar, so the head is above it.
Mm-hmm.
Below it is the foot. Now, on a rare occasion, it only has a foot band down at the bottom, then that is the foot, because they're never going to put a headband. They will only put a foot band. And so those are really easy ways to tell which side is the head and which side is the foot, which is open.
Yeah, don't be giving any cigar people ideas of new packaging of putting a wrapper on the head.
Maybe that's what.
Maybe
we should create the first ever headband. Just be a little headband. But this is truly where people get in trouble, Rebels. They see it closed in and think, I need to cut enough off to really open it up. And they cut way deep into the cigar.
Yes, and then when that happens, the wrapper oftentimes is going to start to unravel.
Yeah, absolutely. And suddenly they're licking it, they're pressing it back down, hoping nobody saw.
Right, and really most of the time, to be honest, everybody sees it. The shoulder is where the head begins to curve into the body of the cigar, and that rounded area really is important because most straight cuts should happen just above the shoulder, not deep into it.
Yeah, and don't cut into the shoulder, because when you cut into the shoulder, the whole thing begins to fall apart on you.
Yes, so you want to remove just enough of the cap to create that clean opening in your cigar.
Yeah, and if you're to look at a cigar, like looking at this one here that I'm holding, you have a very thin cap and you can see the line, and just below it you can see another line. That's typically the shoulder, and the shoulder is made with the same wrapper that goes around the tobacco, or it's a different piece of that wrapper depending on the style. If it's a Cuban style roll, if it's Dominican, there's a few other ones out there, but you really see that shoulder. The cap truly is on this one. The cap maybe goes down 1/8 of an inch down the side of the cigar, maybe even a 16th. It is slight on this cigar.
Right.
And you really do want to remove just enough of the cap to create this very clean opening that allows the cigar to draw. Then you have the foot, Mel. Tell us about the foot.
So the foot is going to be in most cigars that open end of the cigar. That is going to be the side that you are going to light, and that is also where you can see the tobacco filler in the cigar.
Yeah. And this is where the lighting process begins to start, and take place.
Right. The wrapper is that outside leaf, and it impacts the flavor, the appearance, combustion, texture. The binder is going to hold the filler together, and the filler is going to be the tobacco inside of the cigar that drives the burn. It's going to drive the combustion, and the aroma and the flavor profiles are also in a lot of the filler of the cigar.
Absolutely. And all three of those make up the blend. The wrapper, the binder, and the filler, and they all impact the flavor and the combustion.
Right. And when you cut too much, or if you light too aggressively, you can damage the balance of how all of these components burn together.
Yeah, it's kind of like we talked about that ribeye that you go to the butcher, you have them cut a beautiful 2.5-inch thick ribeye, you take it home, you season it, you let it rest on the counter before you get ready to cook it, and you throw it in the microwave. Or the opposite is you take that thing and you throw it on a grill at 700 degrees and leave it on there for 45 minutes and it's charred and burnt. A ribeye microwaved versus a ribeye perfectly cooked versus a ribeye that's just charred to crap tastes differently.
Yeah, it does, 100%.
You must know what you're cutting and know what you're lighting to get the perfect smoke.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great point. And that's really because cigars are always built with intention, and you should start with intention.
Absolutely. Hey, Alex, good to see you on the show tonight. Thanks for joining us. So let's talk tools for just a moment, Mel.
Okay.
Types of cutters, because people, and particularly cigar people, love accessories. They love cigar garbage.
That is very true. Some people have one cutter. Some people have 12 cutters. Some people have a cutter that really sometimes costs more than what the cigar actually costs.
Absolutely. And some people still ask the lounge for one every time because they don't own one, even though they smoke 5 cigars a day.
Yes. And so there really are several types of cigar cutters. There's the straight cut, there's the V cutter, there's a punch, there's cigar scissors, there's cigar knives, and then there are specialty cutters that are for certain shapes.
So let's start with the classic, a straight cutter.
Yes. So the straight cutter, it really is probably the most common, and it uses 1 or 2 blades to make a straight cut across the cap. And a good double blade guillotine cutter, that is one of the most reliable tools a cigar smoker can own.
Yeah, and here's the deal, sharpness matters.
Yes, sharp matters even more than how expensive it is. A sharp, inexpensive cutter is going to be way better than a dull luxury cutter that draws everybody's eye.
Yeah, and you're full of one-liners tonight, Mel, but it's absolutely right. A sharp, inexpensive cutter is substantially better than a luxury cutter that rips and tears your cigar.
Yes, a dull cutter is going to, or can crush the cigar, it may not always, but it's going to mess up the cap versus actually cut it. And that can crack the wrapper. It can compress all of the fillers. It really can create a messy draw.
Yeah, and what is the straight cutter best for? Like, is there a cigar that it's better for than others?
Yeah, so it's going to be the best for most Parejos or round cigars. That's going to be Robusto, Toro, Churchill, Corona, Gordos, the most standard round cigar. That's going to create an open draw, and it really lets you control how much of the cap you can remove.
Absolutely. So Juan said he loves his cutter. It's a Calibri dual cut V, cut on one side and a straight on the other. Alex said my cutter will depend on what I want the cigar to do, and I agree with that 100%, Alex. It's a great point.
Yep.
Because the draw and burn of your cigar, an even burn, an easy draw, consistent flavor happens often because of the type of cut you do. So we really think the straight cutter, definitely that guillotine or a perfect cut, is ideal for smokers who enjoy balance and predictability. The downside, Mel?
Yes, that is if you cut too deep, then you can remove too much of that cap, and that is going to cause the cigar potentially to unravel.
Yeah, so basically it's easier to have an error when you're cutting with a straight cut. It's really easy to overcut, and it can be difficult to get that perfect fine cut.
Right.
Unless you utilize what we call a perfect cut.
Right.
And we do have one here tonight. I was actually surprised. We just got these new in our shop. They're called the Shark.
Yep.
And I didn't realize, even though it's a double guillotine, it actually has a perfect cut on the back. So you can just shave, or you can just plunge it in there and cut.
Yeah.
That helps you have
Yes.
a good cut every time.
And Vertigo, it really makes one of the best perfect cuts out there. However, you do have to be careful depending on the size of your cigar. That matters as well. Some perfect cutters are still going to shave too much off of the top when you're cutting a smaller cigar.
So true. If it, like a Neanderthal with a perfect cut's going to butcher it. You've got to use one that doesn't have a perfect cut, so you can just trim that cap off.
Yep.
So the next one is really a V cutter, and that V cut has become so popular. You're seeing it more and more all over the place.
Yes. So I love a V cut personally. It's going to create a wedge, or really a channel in the head of the cigar instead of just cutting straight across. It really can concentrate the draw, and sometimes it intensifies the smoke on the palate.
Yeah, and I really like V cuts or a V cutter when I'm smoking a larger ring gauge cigar. And I know this is going to be controversial, but I really love a V cut on a Figurado.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really the same for me, especially if I want open the draw up and not take too much off of the cap.
Yeah, absolutely. But a bad V cutter can be brutal.
Yes, a dull V cutter is going to tear or rip up instead of cut. And if the V is too deep on the cigar, it can really damage that structure.
Yeah. So let's talk about punch cutters for a moment.
Punch cutters. So I used a punch cut exclusively on any cigar for about a year. I don't know if you remember my punch cutting phase. It is going to be a small circular plug from the cap, and it's very convenient. It's easy to use. It helps preserve the cap structure, and it's also great for very many of the round cigars.
Yeah, so why would you not recommend a punch for every cigar?
So punch cutters don't work super well on torpedoes or perfectos or the pointed head cigars, even though some people have those little tricks and the ways they like to use a punch. Like I said, during my punch only phase, I used it on everything. But on some cigars, a punch can concentrate tar or create a tighter draw.
Yeah, and sometimes your punch is opening up is too small for the amount of smoke that you really want, or the output or the moisture that's being pulled through it, so it can create some problems. Other times it can feel a little tight, or the draw is a little harder than desired.
Yeah.
So you might have to play with that one a little bit.
Right. And when that occurs, you can add a second punch next to the first one, or you can carefully open it with a straight cut if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And Alex said, a punch cutter are great to compensate for a loose draw, which I agree 100%. If I'm punching with a smaller gauge, like the ones found on the bottom of many lighters, I'll actually punch two holes next to each other. I'll kind of go off to the left and then to the right and really punch that hole twice to open up the draw.
Yeah.
On a larger ring gauge cigar, if all I end up having is a small punch, I may put 3 or 4 holes in there. But you have to be careful so you don't rip the tobacco out the top and create a completely different problem.
Right. Then, of course, you have the cigar scissors.
Yeah, and they look elegant, but I do not like them personally at all. I have never cut a good cigar with scissors.
I think I've used cigar scissors once or twice. They can make a very beautiful cut if they're sharp and they are used correctly, and they give great control, but they definitely require a steady hand. So you're not going to be using cigar scissors probably ever on the podcast, because you talk with your hands a lot. I move my hands around. That would be a disaster.
Absolutely. So what about biting the cap?
Oh man. So we've talked about this on other shows. You can bite the cap off of your cigar and smoke it just fine. I am not gifted. And I've seen multiple people do this more than once, especially when we're at the factory, or we're at an event rolling, or if we're driving around in the golf cart, or if we're having meetings with other cigar people, and they're like, oh, I'm going to just grab one more. I don't have a cutter. And they don't wait for me to hand them my cutter. They just use their teeth.
Yep.
I don't recommend it personally unless you are stranded on a fishing boat with no cutter.
Yeah.
I mean, then you do what you got to do. But if you are in a lounge with access to tools, then I would always recommend using a cutter.
Yeah, so I was at a cigar shop a few days ago, smoked a cigar. I had a second cigar. I just left my cutter in the car for some reason. And the guy sitting next to me, I was going to ask him if I could borrow his cutter, but he cut his cigar, stuck it in his mouth, went back, cut another one, and then he licked his cigar, took a draw, and was like, still not enough, and cut it. And I was like, biting it is.
And that's
and
great.
So
that's a great.
I just bit it off. But, when we're at the factory walking around, that's what you do. Like,
yes.
The first time we were at the factory and I asked for a lighter, they're like, just bite it off. Mm-hmm. And, like, just use your teeth and just scrape it down, because that cap is so delicately on there. It just pulls off and you're ready to rock and roll.
I can't do it.
I do it often on the golf cart a lot.
You do.
But
it's not for me.
It is one of those things. So, Mel, what's the Cigar Rebel recommendation on the right cutter for a cigar?
So I think every cigar smoker should have a good straight cutter, a good V cutter if you enjoy that draw style, and maybe a punch for convenience.
Yeah. And the biggest key is, for the love of all things cigars, when it gets dull, move on.
Yes.
Get a sharper. That's why I love the Vertigo, the plastic ones that are $4 or $5. These $20 Sharks, which are, and there might even be $15, they're spectacular, because when it gets dull, I don't feel bad about chunking it and grabbing another one.
Yeah, I agree. It's not like my beloved lighter that I will keep forever.
Yeah.
A cutter I will absolutely throw away. So speaking of lighters, now we're going to move on and talk lighters. So there are...
Before we jump to lighters, let's try. Ray said that he's always punched multiple times, never once. I agree with you, man. He also said he had introduced a guy to cutters because thought that was why caps were on the cigars. And so absolutely so back to lighters.
Yes. So there are several ways to light a cigar. There's soft flames, there's torch flames, there's matches, there's cedar, and then there are things really that you should not use to light your cigar.
Yeah, never ever use a candle or a propane heater. Honestly, one time I did. I wasn't thinking about it. We were actually here at Stories. It was before we opened by about 2 months. I got here. I couldn't get in the back door. Chris was on his way. I was sitting outside, but we already had the heater set up outside. And I had a Zeno cigar, and I didn't have a lighter or cutter on me. I searched my car. I didn't have one on me. My backpack was already in the car because we both ran errands. And so I lit up the propane grill and lit my cigar with it. Oh, it ruined me. It took me 18 months to smoke that cigar again.
I remember that.
Because it was awful.
Yeah.
Just all of those chemicals introduced to the cigar was brutal.
Yep.
So do not use candles. Do not use propane to light a cigar.
Yes. You do not want to light your cigar, especially with a scented candle, unless you want your cigar to have flavor notes of vanilla, pumpkin, regret, all of those things. You don't want that.
Let's talk soft flames, my least favorite.
Yeah, so a soft flame is going to be lighter and is like a traditional or a thick or lighter flame. So DuPont is probably the most famous soft flame lighter right now on the market. It's going to be... Get out of here, fly. It's going to be gentler. It's going to be cooler. It's going to be more elegant. It works really well indoors and outside, especially if there's no wind.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't work great outdoors. Recently, last year at our Stories Christmas party, Chris got us all these fancier Bic lighters that worked really well. And it's still like lighting it is patient and it takes time, but it still is like one of those things that it sets in my drawer and it's there because it was a gift.
Right.
But it's rarely ever grabbed.
Right.
I mean,
and the soft flame, I think, can be frustrating for a lot of people if the wind is moving a lot.
Yeah. So the torch lighter uses a jet flames. So let's talk
Yes.
about the torch next.
Yeah, so those are going to burn a lot hotter and is much more wind resistant. Torch lighters, they are going to be very common for cigar smokers.
Yeah, and there are multiple styles of torch lighters, such as the single flame, a double flame, a triple flame, a quad flame. There's angled flames, there's flat flames. I mean, they're all over the place. But there are some that are basically flamethrowers. We have a couple here in the lounge that you could be sitting 6 feet away and I could light your cigar.
Yeah. Yes. So a torch, it is very effective, but they can also overheat or they can char the cigar if you put the flame directly into that tobacco.
Honestly, Rebels, this is one of the biggest mistakes that people do is they jam the torch right into the foot of the cigar. So I'm just going to show you here. I'm not going to light it. But they take the lighter and they stick it right at the foot before they ignite it. And it's just right on there. It's kind of, again, like if you're grilling a good ribeye and you have it on the grate and you have a flame that's burrowed up around it, the flame isn't kissing it. It's just absolutely ruining it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing you're doing when you stick this torch right up to it.
Yes. It's going to scorch the wrapper. It's going to char the tobacco. It can really create all kinds of burn issues as the cigar progresses.
Absolutely.
And so that lighter, it really is and should toast and heat the cigar, not punish it. Like you're smoking a cigar to enjoy it. You don't want to punish yourself or the cigar.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's honestly one of the biggest mistakes that has, because not only does it scorch and char the tobacco, it can create all kinds of burn issues as the cigar progresses.
Right.
The lighter should toast and heat the cigar, not punish it.
Yes.
Let's jump to a couple of comments. Raptor said, I do V-cut regardless of cigar because it's idiot proof. I did that for a long time. I run through cycles. Dwayne, it's good to have you on tonight. Alex said, if I'm outside, I'll use a torch lighter, but honestly, I love my soft flame. It's slower and more deliberate way of lighting a cigar. And then, of course, everybody's excited to see Popcorn on tonight, so it's good to have him. And so the lighter, as I said, should really toast and heat the cigar and not punish the cigar.
Yes. So patience, a little bit of finesse, and those proper techniques are going to provide a much better smoking experience. Next, we can talk about matches. Matches work well, especially the long cedar matches. If they are not long cedar matches made for cigars, you can still use them, but you need to be careful and let the sulfur burn off first, or that is really all you're going to taste.
Yeah, and so the sulfur matches are the small cardboard or thin wood matches. The sulfur provides a chemical compound that ignites the flame upon striking it, and you don't want to light your cigar with chemical first or chemical flare. You want to let that burn off. But cigar matches are great.
Yeah, and I think that's really good clarification. Let the match settle and then toast the foot.
Right. Cedar spills are another traditional option. I actually said soft flames are my least favorite. Cedar spills are actually my worst. They offer a gentle flame and a romantic feel is what people say.
Yeah.
But when I see someone grab a cedar spill, what I really think is they're giving off I read magazines vibe.
Right. Yeah. Cedar spills, they do work. It is just more work, I would say. The first you have to light it, and then you got to light your cigar. It takes a lot of patience.
Yeah, and so let's talk briefly about fuel. What fuel should people use for their torch flame?
Yes, I will say when it comes to fuel, I'm very particular about what I will use to refill my lighter. For torch lighters, you're going to use a high quality refined butane. Cheap or dirty fuel is going to clog the jets, and it's going to create lighter problems.
Yeah, and we've all had lighters that work perfectly at home and then refuse to work in public, or they refuse to work after we bought a butane at the gas station on the way home.
Right. And every cigar smoker has been betrayed by a lighter at one point in their life.
Yeah, it's 100% part of the journey.
Yes. Something that will help with that is to make sure you are buying that premium fuel from a local cigar shop. and not something maybe that you found at the convenience store. You want clean fire. You don't want the flavor additives.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And so when you're buying butane, my suggestion is look for one that has a seam down the side that runs vertically up and down the can. If the only seam is at the top, then it's a cheaper butane. If it runs down the side, it is a more highly refined. And there's brands out there, like most cigar shops, you see them, they're anywhere between $5 and $9. It's worth the investment. You spend anywhere between $8 and $40, $50, maybe $100 on a cigar. You don't want a butane that's just a crappy quality.
Yeah, I agree. That's great insights there. Coming up next, we are going to walk you through cutting and lighting a cigar really the right way. But first, we're going to take a quick break.
We fell in love with cigars not because of the flavors or smoking experience or perceived status, but because it allows barriers to fall between other humans and build deeper connections. For that reason, we've been super intentional to curate a space where people can find community and enjoyment with others, and cigars just happen to be the way we're doing it. For that reason, we are thrilled to be the one and only cigar retail store and lounge in downtown Lufkin. A good story is one of the most powerful tools used to connect with another human. Sharing stories fades out differences and highlights similarities found in the details or with the storyteller. Over the years, we have seen some of the best stories told over cigars, and thus, new friendships are made, passions shared, encouragement given, and so much more. The impact storytelling has on the human connection is why we've decided to name our store and lounge Stories. Because behind every good cigar and conversation is an even better story.
Back in 1905, under Montana skies, 100 satin factories rolled smoke for a while. Reminders of ranchers' life, one and grin. Now Big Sky Cigar is bringing that spirit back in.
Yellowstone River to the bold Bighorn flow. Madison, Bitterroot, Blackfoot, we know. And Lee from Nicaragua, San Andres to Ecuador rolled up.
And every box sold helps our veterans mend. With warriors and quiet waters, we lend a friend's hand. It's heritage burning in every draw. Big Sky Cigars, Montana's pride and law. Big Sky Cigar, where heritage flows with every draw. Find your rare red Big Sky Cigar to pop.
As always, thank you to our sponsors. Let's go ahead and take a look at upcoming shows.
Yep. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good.
So next week, July 13th, we have mobile cigar lounges, a discussion with Simple Man Mobile Cigars. They're going to be sitting right here with us at Stories, and we're going to be smoking the Lone Star Attitude by the Elevated Humidor.
Yes, July 20th, we are doing boutique and craft cigars and talking about if there is a difference. On that one, we will be smoking the Intemperance Treachery by Roma Craft.
On July 27th, we've got a great episode coming up, Gathering Place, Cigars, Friendships, in the last third place.
Yes.
And we're going to be smoking the CAO Flathead Speed Shot.
Then we will be diving into August. On August 3rd, we will be going over cigar recommendations, and we will do recommending cigars for every level of cigar smoker. And on that one, we will be smoking the McAuliffe White.
How are we talking August already? I mean, it should be like February.
I don't know. You know me. Once 4th of July is over, I'm counting down to fall.
That's true. I'm ready for cool weather and Halloween and fall cigars. As we mentioned, if you've been smoking along with the show, if you haven't grabbed the Rebel Pack, it is $43 for 5 cigars. That includes shipping and tax. It comes to you around the 20th of every month, and you get all cigars that we're smoking. On a month that there's 4 weeks instead of 5, then you just have a bonus cigar. So far to date, our average value is just over $68, and so it's a great value to get in your hand, and you can find that at the Elevated Humidor's website. And so Mel, let's talk about this cigar for a second. I'm way further along than you are, but it's great because we're going to cut and light another cigar here in a minute as we're talking about cutting and lighting.
Yeah.
You probably will stick with that one. I'll move on. But let's talk about this Paladin by Hoot & Young. We're smoking the Connecticut.
Yeah, so the creaminess of it has really stuck through. You know, on the cold draw, we mentioned it. It's really stuck through for me, and it has kind of coated my palate a little bit. It's got some nuttiness in there, and it's really good. You know,
Yeah, it's really coating my palate. On the Retro Hell, there's these really nice roasted characteristics. Simple hint there of white pepper.
Yeah.
That I really get on the Retro Hell. It's on the finish a little bit too, because there's just a tiny little bit tingling on the inside of my bottom lip, which I sometimes get there, the back of my throat with that white pepper,
Yeah.
sometimes a citrus kind of zest.
Yeah.
I'm pretty far in. It's also picked up a little bit more.
Okay.
So it kind of mellowed out a little bit, and it kind of strengthened up a little bit. So the complexity's been great. It's not been a boring smoke at all.
The construction has been very good.
Yeah.
It's
I've had to
burning
do
evenly.
I've had to do a couple of relights, but it's primarily because I've been talking with my hands, and I just feel like it's more of a me issue than the cigar. But let's get right back to tonight's topic.
All right, so we are finally getting to it. We're going to do cutting and lighting the right way. And I will preface this with, we have done some tobacco 101s that deal with cutting and lighting, and our audience was very nervous after the fact because they did not feel like they were cutting and lighting their cigars the right way. And most specifically, I'm sure it's a compliment, but they were nervous to do it around you after that. So as we're walking through this, just know I'm not judging you. However you cutting and lighting your cigar, I'm not going to speak for you.
The other people at the Cigar Lounge might be judging you, but we're not judging you.
So just have to throw that out there.
So Mel, why don't you go ahead and walk us through cutting and lighting a cigar?
Right. So first, you are going to inspect the cigar, and you're going to want to look at the head and also find that cap line. So it's going to be hard to see this far away, but there on the cigar is a very noticeable cap line. And so most premium cigars, they are going to have that visible cap. Some are going to have a triple cap, and some have the cap, and then also they have a shoulder, as we talked about earlier. You're going to be looking for the line where the cap is going to meet the body.
Yeah, and that's really that top line. The highest line you can see on that cigar is the cap, right?
Yes.
And that's where people need to slow down and inspect their cigar.
Right. So you don't just want to grab and chop. First, you want to pause and you want to look. Second, you're going to choose your cutter. And tonight I'm going to be using this straight cutter here that you had pointed out earlier. And then third, you're going to position the cigar. And really, this one has a perfect cut on the back. And honestly, I'm just setting it in there just kind of for placement. And I'm just going to do a quick cut and get that nice, clean, even cut. Now, if you're using a public cutter, like you had mentioned earlier, you had seen some of that. If you're curious about the draw, take a draw from the foot of the cigar to test the airflow, because then if you need to recut, you can use that public cutter and you're not sharing your saliva with the person who's going to be using that cutter next.
Yeah, that's great advice, is always drawing through the foot gives you that opportunity, or blowing through the foot. But really, the key phrase in all of that is the smallest amount necessary.
Yes, 100%.
Because you can always cut off more, but you cannot put tobacco back in.
Yes, and that is a key phrase right there. It's kind of like talking. You know, you can always say more, but once you say maybe something you're not supposed to, that's never coming back. You're never getting that back.
Absolutely. and as you saw Mel cutting, she's going to want to cut the least amount off of that as possible.
Yes.
And just, I'm going to demonstrate again here, because this one has, she kind of held down because it's got a perfect cut.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a perfect cut, you just want to line it up just there. You want to get a little pressure where you can hold the cigar. I'm not cutting it, I'm just holding it. But when it's time to actually cut it, you want to put quick.
Yes.
You don't want to slowly squeeze it. You want to get it to where it's firm, and then you want to chop it.
Yep, that is
because
very true.
otherwise you will crush the cigar.
Yep. So really you want to line it up, you want steady pressure, and then you want the quick cut. And then you can check the draw. And if you feel like it's not enough, you can go back and repeat that same motion.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, if it's your cutter, you can take a cold draw from the head of the cigar, like this one.
Yep.
There's a phenomenal draw on that with that cut.
Mine was too.
You can still see the top line. I said that was maybe a 1/16 of an inch deep, and I probably cut a 32nd off.
Yeah.
So about half. So there's still a lot of cap still on this cigar.
Yep.
And you're able to really do that. If it's tight or it's loose, you can always cut a little bit more if needed.
Yep, 100%.
But what if it's too tight, Mel? What do you do then?
So first you can try and cut a tiny bit more if there is cap left to do that safely. On these, there is still plenty. If you wanted to go in a second time, you could easily do that. That's not true for all cigars. That's why it's good to inspect your cigar and the cap. But you do want to be careful. You don't want to tunnel through the cigar aggressively and damage that structure.
Absolutely. And what if the draw is just simply too loose?
I mean, really, there's not a lot you can do for a loose draw. That may be construction, or it could be that maybe you cut too much. Again, it's hard. It's hard to really judge that, but you really can just slow down your puffing to avoid overheating it at that point.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because a loose cigar can burn hot if you're a faster smoker. I'm a faster smoker most of the time. Before we move on too far, I want to talk a little bit about the Little Bro by Vertigo has a perfect cut like this on the back. The Shark does. For a perfect cut, if you're on the golf course, in your car, or riding around the golf cart, I keep a perfect cut in my car because I can recut another cigar at a stoplight, or we travel a lot. If I'm on the highway, it's easy for me to either pull over or just hand to Mel to cut for me real quick if she's with me.
Yeah.
And it's easy to cut in the car. So I definitely recommend, even if you love the precision of a guillotine, it makes sense to have a perfect cut for the right situation, because it's just so easy. And very rarely does it not create the perfect cut. On a Figurado, we smoked a Figurado driving home yesterday from the Fort Worth area, and I just cut the Figurado 4 times with that perfect cut. I just clipped it 4 times to get it to the right space and move on. I was in my car. It made it easy. And so just that perfect cut's helpful.
It's a great tip. We had talked about other cutters. For the V-cut, the process is going to be very similar. You can place the head in the cutter. You can make sure it's centered. And then again, you're going to press very firmly and very quickly. And the V should be clean and even on that if you are using a V cutter.
Yeah, walk us through using a punch.
So for a punch, you're going to place the punch in the center of the cap, and you're going to apply gentle pressure. You're going to twist it and remove the plug. So don't drive the punch too deep, or again, you can run into that cracking. All of those things. Also look at your punch cutter, inspect it. I had one that had a little nick up on the side, right where the end of the punch cutter was, to where the part is that you would hold. And I realized it was destroying the cap of my cigar in the twist. And so I had another one. I just used that one. But
yeah, and you don't want to drive the punch in too deep, and you also don't want to use it on a drier cigar because you'll end up cracking the cap. So Mel, talking about torpedoes and Figurados.
So torpedoes and Figurados, they need a little bit of extra care. And that's because the head is going to be tapered. So you can control the draw by how far down you're cutting. So you want to start really small. Again, it's always easy to go back and cut more if you need to. You're going to cut less than you think. And then you want to test the draw, and then you can cut more if you need to cut more.
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest torpedo or Figurado rule. Start small and then increase if needed.
Right. With a torpedo, a small cut can still create a good draw because of the shape concentrates airflow there. And you had mentioned earlier, some torpedoes, you can still utilize that V-cut or even a punch at times and still end with a great draw. That just shows you that You don't need a deep cut in order to have that excellent draw on a torpedo.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point. And if you cut too far, now you have a very expensive mistake.
Yeah, so here are some very common cutting mistakes, and this is where a lot of people learn. Mistake number one is going to be that you cut too much.
Yeah, and that's the classic mistake that we've all done.
Yes, if you cut below the cap, the wrapper can unravel, and this is going to be the most common issue. Mistake number two is going to be using the dull cutter.
Yeah, this crushes or simply tears the tobacco. You end up with tobacco in your mouth, your cigar may crack, and honestly, it ends up creating draw and burn issues that we end up blaming on the cigar or the brand or the roller.
Yeah, and that's sometimes you don't know. I think every cigar smoker has used a dull cutter because sometimes you don't know that they're dull until you've gone through a cigar or two and they're just not cutting the way that they should.
Yep.
So that's when you might not know it's dull until it happens to you. And then mistake number three is going to be cutting at the angle accidentally. That can create an uneven draw or really an awkward mouthfeel.
Absolutely. This one's so easy to do, especially with a tabletop cutter or a standing cutter. We have a really nice cutter that sits on our coffee bar just by our back door. And you stick the cigar on the side and you press down on it. And the other day I was doing that. I was talking to Mel. And so I had it pressed in. When I cut, that cut was at a complete angle, almost like a 45 or 60 degree angle. And the next thing you know, the mouthfeel was a little awkward. And then I had some burn issues with the cigar kind of canoeing. And I think it's because there was more airflow on one side of the cigar than the other. I can't prove that, but it was user error.
Yeah. And bonus tip for those tabletop cutters, usually there are multiple cutters in a row. Watch your fingers when you are cutting a cigar. We have known a person or two that has accidentally stuck their finger in one of the open holes that's there for the cigar, and it is never a great. It's probably worse than ruining the cigar, honestly, if you ruin your finger. But
yeah, absolutely. So tell us about mistake
number
four.
Four is going to be using the wrong cutter for the shape unless you are experimenting or you have done it before. So punching a torpedo would be a great example for that.
Yeah, and mistake number five, Mel.
Yeah, that's not checking the draw before lighting, because once it's lit, the problems really do get more complicated.
Yeah, and can you save a bad cut?
So sometimes you can. If the cap starts unraveling, you can use a small amount of pectin, cigar glue, but that becomes messy and you always have to keep it on hand with you. I had one cigar once and there was a tear, probably like right up here by the shoulder. And I don't recommend this, but I really wanted to smoke the cigar. It was the only one I had. I knew that I wouldn't be smoking that far up, so I did put a little piece of tape over it because it had a crack through it throughout. And so putting that tiny little piece of tape saved all of that airflow. But again, I just didn't want to smoke anything else. That was a cigar I'd been looking forward to all day. So some people also can use a little bit of moisture carefully to press the wrapper down, but that again also is temporary.
Yeah, in the end, just tearing the top is what I do. I'll end up just grabbing where it's unraveling and I'll just hold it and kind of rip it off cleanly. And so now the mouth feels different because my mouth's on the binder. The wrapper's gone at that point, but the rest of the wrapper's on there. It doesn't impact the flavor a ton. Not recommended to do, but it's what I end up doing because I just don't want to screw with it.
Yeah.
It's just the easiest thing to do. Sometimes it keeps the cigar from unraveling because I can hold it there.
Yep.
Other times it doesn't.
Yeah, 100%. If you cut too little, again, that's really an easy fix. You just have to cut a little bit more off of your cigar. But if you cut too much, the best fix really is patience and careful handling. Or if you are dead set on smoking that cigar, finding a way to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to lighting. How do we light?
Yes, so the important word for that is going to be very slowly or just slowly, maybe no very.
Yeah, and that's the important part, right? For lighting, we're going to provide two ways that are both the right way. Toast and light is up first.
Yes, and that is going to be step one. So that is going to be to toast
You want me to do this?
Yeah, you can do that one.
All right. Keep
you
going.
Want to talk about it or you want to light and all?
Talk about it.
Okay. So you want to hold the flame and then bring the cigar at an angle between 45 and 90 degrees to the flame, as you can see as Kevin is demonstrating right now.
And so what I'm doing here is I'm just getting the flame. The hottest part of the flame is actually about an inch above where you can see it. And I'm just moving it around the flame to actually just kind of see it. And what I'm looking for is those little bitty red flashes right around the edge so that I can actually see it flaring up. And what I'm doing is I'm toasting the cigar. I'm not lighting it. And what the toasting is doing is it's kind of melding the wrapper and the binder together, and then the binder to the outer leaf of the filler.
Right.
So that's toasting the cigar. So it's toasted. What do I do next, Mel?
So after that, you really, when you're toasting the cigar, you are trying not to incinerate the cigar. You're really warming and preparing the tobacco up.
Right.
For that.
Yeah. So then next, I want to take it and I want to put it in my mouth and light it. So talk us through that.
So for that, once the foot is toasted, like you have done, you can bring the cigar to your mouth like you're doing right now, and you're going to bring that flame really near the foot and just draw gently while you're rotating the cigar, because you want to get that nice even burn on there. And you're going to want to do really smaller puffs on that, because you're trying to pull the flame evenly across the foot, not create that furnace on your cigar.
And so as you can tell, then you can check it for the nice cherry on the end.
Mm-hmm. Right. So,
see, I've lit that cigar and it's burning perfectly.
Right.
And it's not charred along the sides. It's got an even burn.
Yep. And that's going to kind of lead us into step 3, which is going to be to check that foot of your cigar to see how evenly you've lit it. You can gently blow on it if you need to. You want that even orange reddish glow kind of across the foot. If one section's not lit, you can go back and touch it up just so it's all, you're looking for that nice even toast on there.
So Mel, tell us, why is it important to rotate it while I'm lighting the cigar? You mentioned it, but tell us about it.
So it's important to rotate while you are lighting the cigar because it keeps the heat even. A lot of uneven burn problems, they start with the uneven light.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge issue if it's not evenly lit. You can get an uneven burn or different scorch flavors.
Yeah, so many different problems with it. So how long should this entire process take?
20 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. Not that long. So honestly, 30 to 45 seconds probably.
Yeah, longer than most people think,
yeah.
Right? It should take a little bit of time, especially on a larger ring gauge cigar.
Right. I think a patient light really is one of the best gifts that you can give yourself or your cigar.
That
really
sounds like a lounge poster that we need to have in every cigar lounge in America.
Well,
is a patient light is one of the best gifts you can give your cigar.
Well, we got Chris here tonight. He can file that idea away for new lounge decor.
Yeah. So let's talk lighting mistakes.
Right. So mistake number 1 is going to be putting the torch directly into or onto the cigar. That can scorch the tobacco and it's going to create those harsh, bitter flavors like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, so I'm going to demonstrate here. If this is my cigar, I'm going to hold it next to it. But if I'm doing this and the flame is up into the barrel of the cigar, it is brutal. You're going to be scorching into the cigar, lighting tobacco that you're totally going to scorch and burn.
Yeah.
And then even though you might have a good burn on the end, it just look awful.
Yeah. I was glad you did on the side. I was like, don't scorch that cigar. That's a great cigar.
So I intentionally hit the cigar a little bit to create an uneven burn.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were talking about the different cigars earlier. And so I just wanted to use this as a highlight to touch up.
Right.
I rarely will touch this up, but I actually hit it a little bit on the side while you were talking off camera because I wanted it to be a little awkward.
Yep.
So if I'm going to touch up this cigar, which normally I wouldn't, I would just let it burn.
Yeah.
But if it gets to where the canoeing is too far, because this is a very mild canoe, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lighter, again, I'm going to hold it out in front, and then I'm going to bring the cigar down to it till I can see just a little bit of that burn. And there it's touched up, and it's now pretty even. And I'm going to rotate the cigar and just simply get the burn a little bit. So I'm now back even. But if you can notice how far the lighter is, I see people do this when they're doing it, and that's brutal. I'm coming from down here and bringing the lighter up to right now it's hitting it and it's red. But now I've fixed the canoe. I'm back to being almost perfectly even, and it'll be very enjoyable smoke.
Yeah. So that's going to lead us into some of the other more common mistakes, which mistake number 2 is going to be only lighting that center. The center, if it's lit, you can, but the rest isn't, you can run into tunneling, and that's going to make some burn issues for you.
Yeah, and that's really when the center is burning much, much hotter than the outside of the cigar.
Yeah. Yes.
Mistake number 3, Mel.
Yeah, so only lighting the wrapper edge, but not the center, that is going to create a canoeing or an uneven burn issue.
Yeah, and you need to ensure that your entire cigar is toasted, then lit, wrapper and binder, and then filler.
Right. Mistake number 4 is puffing too hard while you're lighting. That's going to overheat the cigar. So we mentioned when you were lighting it earlier, you want to take a nice light draw on it.
Absolutely, because what happens is it ends up overheating the cigar and it gets hot and the flavor can become a little bitter quickly.
Right. Mistake number 5 is lighting in heavy wind and really not paying attention. The wind can push that flame and cause one side to burn hotter. And so you want to turn away from the wind.
Absolutely. You want to turn away. You want to shield the flame. You want to take your time. And the key to lighting your cigar, regardless of if you're sitting in a lounge or on your deck in a windy day, is patience.
Yes, 100%.
And this is really the part that people underappreciate or underestimate.
Right. And we say all this, we talk about it. We're making it sound like it's this huge, long, drawn out process. But really, once you do it 6 times or however many times, it just kind of becomes like a muscle memory and you just know what to do.
Yeah, and if the cigar has construction issues, that still might show up, but at least you didn't create the problem.
Right.
And that's really a peace of mind, right? So I want to walk you through just briefly the other right way to light a cigar. Mel, can I light your other cigar? Yes. And so this one is really what I call the slow torch, yes, or the slow toast. And so I'm going to hold it the same. I'm going to hold my lighter. I'm going to bring my cigar over here, and I'm going to still go ahead and take this really nice, simple light around the edge. I'm going to toast it just like I did before. I'm going to get it nice and toasted. I can see those little sparks around the edge. It's looking beautiful. And then I'm going to rotate the cigar, and I'm going to bring it here, and I now have it more of a 45-degree angle. I'm still way far away from the cigar. I'm good 2 inches, and I'm just going to rotate around that cigar and get it nice and lit. Okay, and I might come up a little closer as I'm seeing the red flame and the cherry on that end get nice and drawn. I can see the black spots, and I'm just toasting it a little bit, but now I'm slow torching it, and I can see a total red glow. I still haven't burned the sides at all. It's still got a very even burn line. And that cigar is lit and ready to smoke it. The draw was a little, so I'm going to toast a little bit more. And now that's a well-lit cigar.
Did you just take 2 draws of my cigar?
I took 2 draws of your cigar.
That's all right. So you kind of demonstrated a little bit on how to do some touch-ups. So I think that was really good to show them because you had done that one specifically for that, to do that. And like you had said, we don't oftentimes touch up the cigar unless you absolutely have to.
Okay. But when you're lighting a cigar or touching up the cigar, it's so important to realize that you're not welding or trying to start a massive fire, because several things can really cause an uneven burn, Mel.
Right. There are a lot of things. Sometimes, I mean, it could be the construction of it, but
yeah, it's an uneven light.
Yeah.
It's wind. It's smoking too fast. Over humidification.
If you're in the climate that you're in, like you had said, if it's windy, if it's hot, if it's dry, if it's humid.
Yeah, and so basically, don't automatically panic or blame the cigar. Take your time and be patient. And one key reminder is we do not have time to get into the details tonight, but to ensure the pacing of your cigar is good. Taking a draw about every 45 seconds to a minute A nice slow smoke keeps it lit, keeps it burning. Rotate your cigar as you're smoking it. I like to rotate it around. I typically go counterclockwise. Sometimes I go clockwise, but I just naturally go counter. And that really is, you want to get into a good rhythm about one puff every 45 seconds to a minute.
Right. And that's a really good starting point. You don't need to watch the clock, but it is good to slow down, especially if you are learning the proper ways to cut and light your cigar. And a cigar is really supposed to be a relaxed time. If you're constantly puffing it or you're raising the temperature inside the cigar, that's going to change the overall flavor.
And the cigar will tell you a hot smoke, a bitter smoke, a fast burn, it really does impact the cigar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk briefly, because we're already over time tonight, about the relight. If your cigar goes out, you're going to light it the exact same way. The only difference is you can see the ash on the cigar. This one's still lit, so I'm not going to relight it, but you would knock the ash off, and then you would blow through the cigar to exhaust the chamber, get all the smoke out of there, get all the tobacco particles off the end off, and then you're going to start the process over by slowly toasting it and then lighting it, or slowly torching it, whatever your preference is.
Yep.
But for tonight, that's been the right way to cut and light a cigar. Mel, what's your final thoughts on the Paladin Connecticut?
Yeah, so this cigar has been really good for me. It definitely, the profile maybe has deepened a little bit, as I've got about a third of it left. And so I'm still waiting. I'm picking up a little bit of that white pepper that you had said, but not a ton yet. I just don't know that I'm at that transition.
And I've moved on to this Velvet Spice by the Elevated Humidor, but on that Paladin, that finish, the cedar picked way up, and the white pepper picked up right at the end, and that probably last inch and a half.
Yeah.
I smoked mine down to about maybe 3/4 of an inch left.
Yeah.
And then put it down. But it smoked very well. The construction was great.
Yeah.
Was really enjoyed that.
It was great. And it was great for this episode because it had really good construction.
Yeah.
It had great airflow, everything that you're looking for. It was easy to light, all those
absolutely.
awesome things. So thank you guys all for joining us today. If you liked this episode, please leave us a review, share with your cigar friends, and hit us up with any topics you would love for us to cover in future episodes.
Yeah, tonight was a topic requested by one of you rebels. They asked that we do some Cigar 101 about once every 4 to 6 weeks. So we have that planned into the episode schedule, and this was one of them.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sending in suggestions. We want to hear from you guys. If you're watching or listening on the replay, drop us a comment with #ReplayFam and click the notify button so you don't miss an episode.
Right.
Next week, we have a great episode for you Rebels. As we talked about earlier, we're really excited to come and chat with you guys and introduce you to Dale and Delia of Simple Man Mobile Cigars. They're going to be right here in studio with us, smoking the LSA by the Elevated Humidor.
Yep, I'm excited for that.
But for tonight, that's our show.
Yeah, thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow cigar lovers. We will see you next Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Until then, keep your cigar lit, your ash long, and your palate curious.
Good night, Rebels.